and welcome to another edition of Screencasts Online. My name is Rosemary Orchard, and today's show is all about webhooks. A webhook isn't any one app or one service. In fact, it's how different apps and services can connect to each other to communicate using the internet. Sometimes webhooks have different names, but we'll get to those later. An example of a webhook could be when you post on WordPress, a tweet is automatically posted on Twitter. Another example could be that on WordPress, I have a page which is filled with data from Airtable. These are both examples of webhooks that you can set up using automated systems. Now, in today's examples, I'm going to talk about Jetpack, WordPress, Twitter, Airtable, shortcuts, and Zapier. Now, these are just some of the hundreds or thousands of applications and systems you can use webhooks with. But because it's an abstract concept, I've picked a few of the more popular ones to help us out. The first example would use Jetpack, which is a relatively simple plugin for WordPress. But our second example uses the AirPress plugin, which requires much more configuration. So, webhooks can be simple or complex, but we can also create them ourselves. There are several popular ways to do this, which I'll dive into later in the show. But one way that you might want to do this is if you want to use shortcuts to communicate with Airtable, which doesn't have any shortcut actions of its own. Or perhaps you want to add something to a service which doesn't integrate with Zapier. You can use webhooks on Zapier to do this. So we should start by taking a look at the different kinds of webhooks there are. There are 5 different names of webhooks: get, post, patch, put, and delete. So we have 5 different kinds of HTTP requests, or webhooks, but we can actually split these 5 into 3 different categories. The first category, which includes the get, is exclusively for looking information up. This could be to get a list of all of the different things available to us, or to get the details of one particular item. Our second group, which contains our post, patch, and put, is for creating and updating items. This involves us sending data. And finally, our third category, delete, is us asking the system to do something, but we don't necessarily need to specify a lot of information, though we will need to specify what it is the system should delete for us. So now we know what different kinds of webhooks we have, as well as each individual name, let's take a look at what that actually looks like in practice. I'd just like to take a moment here to add a small note of caution. While all the terms that I'm using here are correct as they were defined, every system can implement these things differently. Of course, this is down to the service involved. If the service that you're using your webhook with doesn't offer support for a specific kind of request, then that doesn't mean to say that you can't do it at all. Indeed, if you read through the documentation, you'll often find, especially if we look at our middle category of our actions, then you can probably use them interchangeably. It really does depend on the service. So let's start by looking at a GET request.
That's just a quick preview of one of this week's Apple-related tutorials from Screencasts Online. Screencasts Online is your premium source of Apple-related video tutorials. All of our members get access to brand new, up-to-date tutorials each week, as well as unlimited access to our entire video archive full of Mac and iOS-related tutorials. You can stream and download all of our videos on your Mac, iPad and iPhone, and even your Apple TV using the members-only Screencasts Online Apple TV app. Membership also includes a complimentary subscription to the digital Screencasts Online monthly magazine, published each month and packed with videos, articles, reviews, as well as hints and tips covering all aspects of the Mac, iPad, iPhone, and all of the other fantastic Apple products. So, if you're ready to start getting the most out of your Apple devices, visit screencastsonline.com today and become a Screencasts Online member.